So Susan is the VP of Customer Success, and she is in charge of several things. Thing number one is long term, making sure that all of our customers are happy, configuring okay, dealing with things like customer service issues or reports or errors, but also making sure that you're following best practices that we've learned through other industries, best practices that we've learned through your industry. She also manages the training, so that doesn't really require a lot of training. You'll see how easy it is to use, and also handles, just building the community. One of the things that we think is really important is building a community around the software and the platform, so that everybody gets the most out of the service. So, Susan, with that, you can take over and show the platform.
Oh, thank you, Ed. So I'm going into that dashboard that Ed shows you. That's essentially your home screen when you log in. And here you can see a 3-tier setup in this demo with critical vendors in tier 1 and the lowest risk vendors in tier 3. That's a possible setup for your dashboard. But as Ed mentioned, you can have different arrangements. Some credit unions use 5-tier setup. So in this case, again, the highest risk vendors are here in tier 1. And then they're parsed out a bit more so that when you get to tier 5, you have those local low risk vendors. And these vendors, for example, in tier 5, are just being monitored for insurance, business integrity indicators, basic information. They don't really touch any customer data, things like the cleaning service, the shredding service. The tier 1 vendors would be your core processors, and they could be monitored for a variety of rules, such as looking at financial statements, technical audits, disaster recovery and business continuity plans, and all of this is customizable. So when you log in and you see your dashboard, you can see right away which of your vendors have exceptions to the rules that you're monitoring. And then you can drill down and take a look. This is that company profile that Ed showed you. And here you can see some general information about the company. You can see their timeline that contains events about the company that come from various sources. And then you can see the rule sets that are applied to this company here. So right away, we can see that some are good to go. In this case, the technical audit rule set is good. A SOC 2 report is on file and satisfactory and timely. So that's green. Business continuity is not. The business continuity plan isn't on file, or it has expired, or is in some other way inadequate. You can also see a variety of rules and even contract administration. Here's one that looks at the presence of an insurance or bonding policy. This is generally applied to any vendor. And you can take a look in the timeline and see the various events, and you can see the insurance event that is causing that rule set to pass. And you can take a closer look, if you like, at that insurance event, and even drill down and look at the document that's associated with it. So there's that document. Now, I would like to emphasize that what you can see in the company's timeline is permissioned. So these events, we can only see them if the user logged in has permission to see them, or they're generally public. And by public, I mean public to users on Trust Exchange. So for instance, here's a news story about Jack Henry. This is a public event. It's not private. It's posted on the internet, so you can link out and look at the news story. And anyone who's a user, registered user on Trust Exchange could see this event. But there may be other events posted in this timeline that we can't see at all because we don't have permission to see them. Now, Ed mentioned that there are a large variety of events, so I'll show you some of the kinds of events we have and how they can be created. I'm going to search for a company, and this is another thing you can do, is you can search for and research companies as well as monitor them. You can search for, research them, and add them to your monitoring portfolios or dashboards. So this is a test company, our tech services demo company. And if we'd like to add an event ourselves, we can go here to the add event function. And there are a variety of event types. They have various fields. You can set them as private or public. If they're private, you can grant users or groups of users view-only permissions and or editing permissions. You can append comments. You can set different dates at which you might get alerts when a review was due or coming up at whatever interval you like. It could be when it's due, 30 days in advance, 60 days in advance, or all three. If you chose, you could get multiple alerts. And then you can attach documents and files. So that's a contract event. Many credit unions we work with do manage contracts as well as vendor compliance. But as you can see, there's a big range that you can choose from that are preloaded. Some of those technical audits, various assessment reports, that kind of thing. We'll take a look. Here's a risk assessment event that can be filled out, various things checked off and filled in, a rating given, documents attached. Things like the business continuity plan that was missing from the checklist we looked at a moment ago. This is a business policies, plans, and tests event. There are various types and categories that could be appended here. And again, we set it as public or private. In this case, it would no doubt it would be private. We could grant viewing permissions, editing permissions, add comments. Let's see, we can call it a business continuity plan. We could pick our category for that. And you could set it as received, pending review, in which case you could review that internally or have a third party review it before it was satisfactory in status. There's an expiration date that's defaulted, but that can be modified. And then you can attach a document, either by selecting a document that you already have on file or uploading the document. I'll pick this one just as a sample. And these could be PDFs, JPEGs, common document formats. And now once the document has been loaded, it can also be permissioned separately from the event itself. So it can be set as private, public to Trust Exchange, or you can assign a PIN to the document and give that out for access. And then you can share it also with specific users or groups, very much like an event itself. So now that document is attached. And we can see our event here that we just created in the timeline. Go in and look at details, etc. These events can come, again, by the company itself. The vendor could post them. Another Trust Exchange user could post them. A third-party professional, such as an auditor, accountant, could post them. Or they can come in from selected feeds. You can use this to post completely private events about a company that only your team sees. One kind of event we have is a internal notes event. You could post it in your vendor's timeline. Everyone on your team can see it, but the vendor themselves won't see that event. They won't see your comments. But then for your purposes, it's all organized in one place. Now, your documents are associated with events, but there's also a files repository where they're all organized, and you can add files here and edit their permissions here as well. And that comes built into the platform. And once you have this information, the final step is to generate periodic reports, and there are a range of reports. You can look at the history of companies, all the various events or specific events, like let me see all of the SOC reports for my critical vendors. You can run a report about that. You can run reports on their status, or one of the most powerful reports that I'll show you today is an overall summary report that you might use for your quarterly board report that gives you the overall status of your monitoring program in summary. You can add optional comments, and then you'll get a nice overview that will tell you how many companies in each of your tiers are in good standing, how many have missing data, how many have expired data and need attention, how many alerts have been sent about those companies, how many are have alerts have been sent letting you know that they're back in good standing, how many new companies have been added, and so on. So this report will give you summary metrics for your entire program, and you can set the timeline, print it out, etc. I mentioned alerts going out about companies. Those are triggered by changes. So when one of these companies has a change in status, you can choose to get alerts by exception. You can get alerts when something's been added. Those are stored here, and they can be reviewed and archived. And they also come to you in a daily email digest every morning. So these are all the alerts for a particular group of companies that are being monitored. And you'll get this first thing in the morning in a single digest in your email, and then you can click in to view these in more detail. That's a very general overview. And so I'm ready to
Cool. So Susan,
questions.
thank you very much, Susan.